But right now, Environmental Remediation and Financial Services, ERFS as it's better known, is an industry leader in the development of subsurface soil and groundwater remediation technologies and is recognized for industry-first innovations in remediation technology and financial programs for remediation projects. Since pioneering the first pay-for-performance contracting programs for remediation in 1998, ERFS has successfully completed hundreds of remediation projects across America and Japan for government agencies, public corporations, and for private groups. The CEO of Environmental Remediation and Financial Services is Mark Vigneri, and he joins us today. Good afternoon, Mr. Vigneri. How are you?
Mark Vigneri.
I'm doing fine. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, well, thank you for being here. I was saying to Vin before that I wasn't
You have no idea.
Oh,
You have no idea.
well, I have some idea on a lot of things.
All right.
What's the old master of something, master of none deal? That's kind of where I fall.
Whatever it is, you don't know.
Well, first of all,
Yeah.
I guess tell the audience a little inside view of the soil and groundwater remediation industry, and then tell us a little bit about the company.
Well, this is something very important for the public to understand. A lot of times you'll hear things about spills, things that are toxic in the ground, get into rivers, but you don't understand a lot of times that there are people that study that, there's people that regulate it, but eventually somebody has to go out and remove it. So we develop technologies not to upset life. You would like to use your house, your shopping center. You don't want to dig up utilities. So we develop ways to reach in the subsurface and clean these cubic volumes of soil and groundwater, whether they're organic contaminants like gasoline or metals that get in there. And somebody's got to pay for this. Everybody pays for this in some way in taxes, but also some of these projects get bogged down because somebody hasn't done financial modeling for them to be able to get to land transactions, development, or cost recoveries. So we've worked on everything that you could think of pretty much across the United States and Japan.
So what is, and I don't know if this is the right word, but what would be a typical, where's a scenario that somebody calls you and says, you guys got to come in here and take a look at this?
Well, it'll be as large as a Department of Defense site where it's going for reuse. It could be as small as, and we've had many hundreds of these, depending on the state, heating oil sites. They can be sometimes the most toxic things, wipe out a neighborhood. So it would be pretty much about any setting that you can think of. We've worked under live shopping centers, around schools while they're being attended, along pretty dangerous utilities. So we find some way to get the work done.
So what was the norm before you guys have developed your technology to be able to do this without interrupting life, as you say? What would have had to happen before?
Well, we go against traditional technology, so pump and treats, soil vapor extraction, sparging. There are ways of going and putting big equipment plants on the surface, and then you are running them hoping to get down to a compliant level. Our equipment is portable, so we move where the contamination is detected. In sensitive sites, all the equipment goes away at night, or if we're at an airport, goes out of the secure area and gets tucked away. So we find ways to either be able to augment the old systems and turn them off, or prevent you from having to spend a lot more money on those systems.
Right. So the money is a big issue that I know comes up. So just to kind of bring this all home, you know, when the United States was industrialized, you know, people were just dumping everywhere. There's stuff all over the place. And that happened for years and years and years. All kinds of stuff, fertilizer, you know, petroleum, all this kind of nonsense. So companies like yours, you know, play a huge role in our economy, frankly, because they help redevelop places that people wouldn't touch. And we all know towns and places and buildings with asbestos and all this. But the question I have for you is, and we talked about this in the green room there a little bit, is a lot of these properties you're touching on the surface seem like, oh man, this is damaged goods. Why would I put money into this? Because who knows, you know, I don't want to get sued one day because someone comes down with some disease because there was fertilizers leaking down, right? So the financial community's got to be a little wary, and I know it's one of the key things your company does, but how do you do that?
Well, we bring in financing from the outside that will be for specific roles. So a lot of times we'll be dealing with somebody trying to get to a land transaction for development, and or a Fortune 500 company that might have a reserve, and we'll structure it so that what you can pay will get you to a certain point, and then we'll put in the temporary financing in order to get to a point where the value is restored. We also work in our expert services division. If you're a municipality and you have abandoned property, being able to find grants, funds, insurance, or responsible parties so that you can remove the blight, whether it's going to be developed or not. So
right, and this
neighborhood isn't hurt anymore.
A great example of this is a very big one, but the Inner Harbor in Baltimore, which had all kinds of environmental issues, and some developer went in there. You obviously know this project. That one was a while ago, but it invigorated an entire city. And we see this in New York City going on now. So,
and you know who did that work?
No.
Was us.
Really?
So when you go into Baltimore and you go in the Cannon Crossing section, there's the First Mariner building, one of the tallest buildings in Baltimore. That was a place where we removed over the size of a football field 100 years of old petroleum, oil, all kinds of distillates that came off of the river when that was an American Standard terminal. And we actually, in the compliance area, we had only 60 days to be able to remove this in order to keep the development deal that built that building going. That's one of our marquee projects.
Yeah, so that's great. I'm glad I brought that up, because that's what a great example of the impact you have that no one knows about.
Yeah.
So going back to, I know you mentioned a little bit how you pay for it. You said in some way everybody does, but talk to me a little bit more about that as far as the difference in whether it's insurance, legal settlements, that kind of stuff. Tell me more about that.
Well, the way that you would pay for it transparently in the public would be like taxes and fuel in certain states, or from sales taxes that might go to cleaning up dry cleaners, the fuel taxes with obviously gas stations, and your federal taxes for being able to do the larger, EPA-associated sites. But your insurance premiums, there's an enormous amount paid by the insurance industry. And then you get into the legal system, which is the sorting out of who's responsible. What's really great in America is we're very developed that our economy absorbs these costs as you reprocess the land. As I've worked internationally, you find that you don't have, the countries are trying to get to that point where we're very sharp in how we get this done.
So I guess looking forward, what are the biggest challenges you see, I guess, for the future of the industry as a whole that you're going to be dealing with as technology has to evolve? What are the biggest challenges you see in the next 5-10 years?
Well, the challenges, like technically we have in our land services division, we're doing a lot of work with taking sediments, ash, things out of rivers, working with large soil projects where we don't take anything out at all. We chemically treat it, but we do it with mechanical means in the subsurface. I think the biggest challenge really is for the public to really understand this, because you're spending the money for it. And understand also what the regulations are. Sometimes we have to go down to extremely low levels in order to get regulatory compliance, where it's arguable whether that's really dangerous to a human being, an animal, a plant, where the original rules came from. And where do you want this work to be done? Where do you want this money to be applied? The top of the industry with development, it will always be there because it's controlled in the states, and it's by these property transactions, because it restores the value of the property and it removes in accounting any liabilities for the future, so that part's pretty well taken care of.
Is this an industry where the EPA can have an effect on you on a yearly basis as things change, or every couple years, or how does it, when regulations and you look at that, how does that affect you, or do they?
The EPA can have an effect because the way that the states are set up is you can accept the federal rules, or you could have something more stringent. So every state has something that is more stringent, or New York and New Jersey have things that are very much more stringent. And it's really controlled down in the state. The EPA sets the tenor for what's going to be done, what needs to be compliant, but it really does come down to the state level.
Does the I'm curious about this whole regulation thing, because there's a lot of pushback, within the government now on over-regulation and trying to pull this stuff back, and there's a lot of people upset with some of the loosening of things through the EPA and all this kind of stuff. So what do you see sort of the inflection point of the over-regulation or enough regulation so that you can actually do these things? Because you're actually bringing enterprise, you're creating jobs, even though you're fixing soil. You're an incubator for the economy.
Yeah, they're both right. So you have this original problem where the EPA moved too slow for industry. I've worked with great Fortune 500 companies that I've been in private meetings, and they really want to clean something up. And a lot of the time is really the paperwork and the presentation of this. So, and some of these action levels a little overzealous. What's happening, kind of like a rubber band, like a boomerang, is now it's going too far the other side. Some of this infrastructure is getting disassembled, and you don't want to discourage anybody to do this. What we tell our customers is, this is about as good as the deal's going to get right now. And
go do it.
So, yeah, go do this and stuff, because you don't know what the future regulations are going to be. And it's really like any subject. When you get into the middle of the road, then you get it right.
Yeah, good point.
We've been speaking with Mark Vigneri. He's the Chief Executive Officer, Environmental Remediation and Financial Services. I got about a minute left. So what are the, when you think back, you're 20 years now CEO, what are some of the big projects that you look back and you go, wow, look at what we've done here, besides the one that Vin mentioned?
Yeah, I think it goes in two directions. I think the first direction is some of the Superfund sites, or the larger sites that turned into neat things like the parking lot for a stadium for the Super Bowl, or getting something done that there was 3 or 4 failures before. But I like working on a lot of the things that touch people. We have certain states where the home heating oil is highly regulated, and we do special training for the technicians, that come off of these big sites, so that when we're doing these works in these neighborhoods, that everything gets done well.
That's great stuff, by the way. Well done.
All right, we got a little commercial. We're going to roll here on a little more on environmental remediation and financial services. We're going to roll it right now for you, and we'll be back right after this. Roll that, Greg.
Living in a modern society affords us many benefits in terms of convenience, technology, and standard
That's good.
of
Eye-opening.
living.
Good comments on.
But the price for some of those benefits can often come in the form of damage to the local environment. From soil to groundwater, conveniences we take for granted can often have a very adverse effect on things we need to live a healthy life. That's where environmental remediation comes in. And that's why we traveled to Seagirt, New Jersey, and got a behind-the-scenes look at the world's greatest in remediation. ERFS, Environmental Remediation and Financial Services. ERFS has been on the leading technological edge of this vital industry since 1998.
Environmental remediation and financial services develops innovative technologies to connect to soil and groundwater contamination in order to convert that contamination into harmless compounds.
What is so amazing about ERFS is since 1998, we've been able to develop technologies, equipment, instrumentation to be able to clean soil and groundwater without excavations or disturbing the subsurface, but then put it into business solutions and financial options that make it possible for our client to be able to complete a project.
Specializing in the development and use of subsurface processes which are designed to complete site remediation within the least cost and time, ERFS caters to a number of industries.
ERFS uses the on-contact remediation process, a 4-stage process that allows us to continually develop and add new techniques. ERFS methods allow for real-time adjustments in the field to convert contaminants to harmless compounds.
Most unique of all, ERFS also caters in financial design, which allows them to work with their clients using unique and innovative programs.
ERFS is a very unique company in that while being a technology company, We're also providing business services and performance contracting financial solutions.
Best of all, ERFS is a company that cares about people and communities. The attention they provide their clients is insurmountable.
ERFS has 18 different types of performance contracts to complete remediations on a not-to-stop basis. We also provide to engineers and consultants Proxy 1 services that allow for individual technologies to be bought on a time and material basis. Endpoint services allow for companies that have to manage reserves for capital equipment to be able to augment their systems, close them out, and retire those financial liabilities. And last, our expert services allow for us to be able to recover funds from municipalities and states in order to be able to do cleanups that are long overdue.
What's been a very powerful tool for ERFS is that we have designed so many in-house technologies that it allows for project managers to plan for plan A, B, and C and adjust to real-time project field discoveries.
In an industry that affects us every single day, there is one company that stands above the rest. ERFS is the world's greatest.